Hi, this is RX-78GP01. This time I'll explain the Gundam GP01 full Burnern. Gundam GP01 full Burnern, model number RX-78GP01Fb, is Gundam GP01 rebuilt with a lot of GP01's space modules, usually being simply referred as GP01 in its space dressing. GP01Fb has some modifications made in order to speed up the GP01's rebuilding process, and its core fighter is no longer compatible with the original GP01's body. In short, GP01Fb is a customized version of GP01 that is dedicated for space use that also uses a lot of GP01's space dressing. GP01Fb started its development as GP05, a dedicated space use Gundam using the same flexible frame in the Gundam development project. However, the Federation Force was eyeing for the mass production, i.e. GMs that would be produced based on the Gundams deemed mature enough. And if GP05 turns out to have different flexible frame setup to other GP Gundams, that would hamper the development of their GMs. So the GP05 project was roped into GP01 project, since GP01's goal was to develop the general use base model of Gundam with modules to adapt different mission requirements, and so the GP05 team turned their effort into developing modules for GP01 to use in space, and the entire set of modules formed the space dressing for GP01. However, disaster struck as GP01 was immobilized by Zeon remnants in an ambush, to a degree that the entire mobile suit needed to be rebuilt, given how Albion was in a rush to the recovery or destruction of GP02. Anaheim decided not to rebuild GP01 to its original general-purpose modular design, but a strictly space-use one. Anaheim also managed to optimize the design of GP01's backpack, giving GP01Fb even more power to run its beam weapons and giving it more thrust. To see the extensive work and shortcuts Anaheim made to rebuild GP01 as GP01Fb, making it one of the most powerful mobile suits during the Dallas Fleet Rebellion, let's take a closer look starting from the head. GP01Fb's head is exactly the same as GP01's. Like we have talked about in the GP01 video, it is designed as a general-purpose altering type Gundam like the original RX-78. So GP01's optics, targeting array, communication system, and auxiliary fire control systems are fit for space use. GP01's chest is where things get interesting. You can see the waist is being recolored in white to indicate that it is for GP01Fb, not GP01, because the changes made in the upper body to fit the modified core fighter is drastic enough that the lower body needs to be changed in order to retain structural strength. The GP01Fb's core fighter still docks in horizontally like GP01, but its nuclear thermal rocket jets are being replaced with much simpler nuclear thermal rockets. It has counter thrusters in place of its jet intakes. Thus, the GP01's chest fans has to be modified to become covers for them, and they can still be deployed in docking mode to be used as GP01's counter thrusters. This 3-frame set does represent this gimmick with add-on thruster nozzles like so. GP01's FB skirts are extended back to a more standard size, since GP01Fb is expected to fight, unlike GP01, which was just made for experimentation. Although those were military experiments, so it was still rather capable on the battlefield. The side skirts are also extended to include dedicated propellant tanks for the side skirt thrusters. GP01Fb's legs looks like they are heavily modified, but it is in fact only covered in GP01 space use modules. That's why the thighs, knees are very much the same as GP01's. The lower legs, however, are covered by big curved armor plates reminiscent of Xeon mobile suits. Indeed, the design was influenced by how Xeon designed their mobile suits, creating large internal volumes in the lower legs to store propellants for potential long marches or intensive dogfights. Apogee motors are added to give GP01Fb more flight control in space. The ankle armor designs allows GP01Fb's foot and in turn the main thruster movement range a larger angle, although it is fixed on this frame and in fact it limits their movement. Flexible thrusters return to the back of the calves of GP01Fb, giving it even more thrust and again fine flight control. GP01Fb's feet are also enlarged with shoes. This is done to normalize the ground pressure to compensate for the weight increase. In addition, they also compensate for the enlarged lower leg armor from colliding with the ground should GP01Fb land on Moon or asteroids or other places in space. GP01Fb's arms are very much like its legs, mostly as GP01 with space use modules. That's why the arms themselves are unmodified, but the shoulder armor have extended with apogee motor arrays and extra propellant tanks. The side flaps are also added for the anticipation of intense combat. GP01Fb's backpack, like GP01, is formed by the back half of its core fighter. Unlike GP01, however, the external armor shell design is abandoned in favor of the ease of ejection of the core fighter, and simplifies the design of the universal boost ports added from the space use module. To compensate for this, the armor thickness of the back half of the core fighters is increased to match those with the armor shell. The nuclear thermal rocket jets are replaced with simpler nuclear thermal rockets, as we had talked about earlier. And the beam saber holsters are modified, but it is not visible in backpack mode. The main feature of GP01Fb, its core fighter and the backpack, is of course the universal boost ports. While universal boost ports themselves are part of the space dressing for GP01, the module design would need to work with the original GP01 core fighter, and it was never tested. In order to speed up rebuilding of GP01Fb, the universal boost ports are mounted directly onto the core fighter. The universal boost ports are self-contained units with their own propellant tank, Minovsky reactor paired with rocket thrusters and apogee motors. They function not only as external booster but also MBAC devices, improving GP01Fb's rotation speed and control. The universal boost ports are named so for the fact that the main thrusters can be pointed to any direction with the universal joint at their base. The universal joint also needs to be able to lock in correct position to push GP01 in the correct direction and strong enough to keep the universal boost ports from flying off on their own. GP01Fb's arsenal is not surprising, the same as GP01's, although in the G-frame set it is only limited to falcons on the head, pair of beam sabers on the back, its beam rifle, and a shield. The head falcons proven their usefulness even when GP01 was immobilized, so they get to stay. The beam sabers got optimized now can project a longer beam blade, although this G-frame set does not have one in active mode. GP01Fb's beam rifle is developed by Anaheim to be modular for ease of production and development of its variants. It is based on the original RX-78 beam rifle. While it is larger, it also has a lot of improvements. The E-caps is no longer stored inside the receiver but on top of the buttstock, and it is removable like a magazine. The optics is located on the front of the receiver and supposed to be movable like RX-78, but it is fixed on this G-frame. It can be used as coordinates or triangulate, again like the original RX-78, making it possible for GP01Fb or GP01 to make very precise and quick aim. The beam rifle's barrel also looks a lot like the original RX-78 with its conical handguard and cooling jacket and large muzzle device, but it also features a beam jutay under the barrel, with its beam blade emitter just behind the muzzle device and on top of the front grip. The beam jutay not only generates a beam blade that can protect GP01Fb or GP01's hand while gripping on the barrel, but also fork out 45 degrees to protect the GP01Fb or GP01's hand while gripping on the front grip. Hence why it is called jutay. Sadly, neither this or GP01's G-frame have the beam jutay blade to show, so we have to save its extensive use when we get one that does. The GP01Fb shield, on the other hand, is developed to be a universal model. It is based on the GM Command's shield because it is less cumbersome compared to the original RX-78 tower shield. It is also designed to be able to carry 2 beam sabers and 2 E-cap magazines on its back, but both this and GP01's G-frame have neither. In addition, it can be shortened to half size by sliding the top half down behind the bottom half, blue over blue, but again both G-frames keep theirs fixed at full size. The purpose of shortening the shield is 1 for logistics but 2 for close quarters where it would be easier to wield and has double the thickness. This is inspired by the ground-type shields used by the Federation Army in the One-Year War. You can see it has the top handlebar on this shield like those ones. While this shield does not have a spade at the end, it is still made out of lunar titanium, making it quite an effective blunt impact weapon. All the extra thrust added means GP01Fb has more than twice the thrust than GP01, along with universal ports and extended limbs, making it extremely nimble in space. In addition, due to how GP01Fb core fighter and torso are completely rebuilt for space use only, it is only heavier than GP01 by less than 20%. This is intentional by GP01's team as an anti-mobile armor measure, since both theirs and Federation's analysis conclude that Gundam or other Federation mobile suit defeated Zeon mobile armor during the One-Year War with superior agility, despite many mobile armor had better acceleration and firepower. Side note, this matches with Zeon's mock battle between the two pre-war as well. GP01 has its top-notch acceleration, marginalized mobile armors edged down to just firepower. Having said that, the acceleration of GP01Fb is rather extreme, and it does not have a linear seat built into its core fighter cockpit, so it is rather tough mobile suit to handle. Luckily, the machine learning AI is still on board and makes the many thrusters and apogee motors easy to manage. After a brief run to see GP01Fb work smoothly, it is scheduled to continue the pursuit of GP02 with Albion. However, a Xeon mobile armor Velvolo shows up and challenges GP01Fb for a duel. To avoid full-blown battle risk damaging von Burnern, the duel was accepted. While the duel did not go quite as well as Anaheim had hoped, GP01Fb did defeat Velvolo with its superior maneuverability. That was long enough to delay Albion to catch GP02 before it unleashed a nuclear strike on the Federation fleet parade around Space Fortress Solomon. GP01Fb managed to cut off GP02's escape, but against its much more experienced pilot and the heavy armor, GP01Fb only managed to bring GP02 down with itself. Miraculously, both pilots survived and shortly meet again during Operation Stardust, with very different machines. That would be a story or two for another time. While GP01Fb along with GP01 was destroyed, Anaheim had gained a significant amount of experience in mobile suit design and production. In addition, Anaheim had tested many GP01's design with customized GMs, one of which is simply known as GM Custom, model number RGM79N, the precursor of GM Quell. There is also the GM Custom High Mobility type, GM Customs equipped with universal boost pods. The universal boost pods were further developed into booster binders and later wing binders featured on many Anaheim-built mobile suits. The GP01Fb's core fighter transformation method would later be used to develop Delta Gundam, although Anaheim's original version of movable frame developed from the flexible frame was not quite strong enough to complete the project on time. GP01Fb's leg design also influenced a lot of Anaheim's mobile suit designs, to the point where it became common among both Federation and Xeon-style mobile suits. However, due to the fleet parade being nuked by a Gundam commissioned by Federation themselves, the Gundam development project was shut down shortly after, with any related records sealed or destroyed. Anaheim kept their mouth shut in exchange for keeping their records as trade secrets. But shortly after the Laplace conflict, there was a social movement to re-evaluate the Federation force, and the Gundam development project, along with relevant records, were publicized through multiple means, providing valuable historical records of how the end of 1 Year War leads to the Grips War and how Anaheim became a mobile suit development and production powerhouse. Thanks for watching.